Okay, today we're going to do a simple hand-sewn pleated mask with a filter pocket. I'm using black because I often get requests for black, even though it's not my favorite color for masks. I would like something a little bit more colorful, but I get it. Not everybody wants to be as colorful as I do. So here is our fabric, and we are going to go through a number of steps, but I've actually prepared this time. So I will tell you what we need. We're gathering our tools and materials. We need fabric, we need elastic, we need thread, black thread, I'm literally gathering these as we speak. We need a needle. I have one in here. We need an iron and an ironing board. Here is my iron. And this orange thing here is my ironing board. And we need a good pair of scissors and pins. All right? So I have gathered my tool. The next step is to cut out the fabric. For a simple pleated mask, we need a rectangle that is 9 inches by 17 inches. Look at this. Okay, now the key about this one is it's all hand sewn, right? The reason it's hand sewn is because not everybody has a sewing machine. And we want to make sure everybody knows that even if they don't have a sewing machine, they can still make their mask, right? And when you can make your mask, you can make it out of any fabric you want. You can make it as pretty as you want, as ugly as you want, which is actually something we're going to work on in a little while. But there's a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of possibilities when you can do what you want, right? Because I'm doing this as a demonstration for you, I am going to use yellow thread because I want my sewing to stand out, okay? So the first thing I do is I thread the needle with the thread. The thing about embroidery thread though is it's thicker, right? So if you have a needle threader, that's a good thing. I know I have one around here somewhere, but for me to find it now would be another thing. So trying to make it go in without the needle threader. Okay, so here we have the needle and thread. And because the thread is so thick, you only really need to have one layer at a time. You don't need to double thread so okay. Rightio. Do that. There we go. Great. Look at that. Oh my gosh, I so love this. This is so cute. And all it is a stitch. I know. I'm easily amused. Right. The next step is to sew in from the edges. We're sewing on the short side of the fabric. Sew in from the edges. On this adult size mask, we're going to sew in just 1.5 inches. We're trying to get, okay, we're trying to get a 4-inch opening, right? It's an 8-inch mask in regular width. So we can sew in as much as 2 inches on either side, right? So that's about 2 inches. Now we're sewing the pieces together, right? Now this is hand stitching, right? All the minimal equipment needs for making a mask, right? I'm sure there's even more. There is actually probably 1 or 2 easier ways, and I'll do demonstrations on that too. Right, so, but this one is great because it's very customizable. You can wield a needle, your weapon of choice. We have our opening, our seam, and our iron, so we can press our seam open. So let's do that next. And yes, our iron has been going this whole time. Okay, the next step, that's actually pretty good looking. I love the yellow and black together. Do it back out a bit. Okay, for the next step, we're going to get the elastic. So I use too much elastic on purpose. If I use too little elastic, I might end up getting someone asking me, hey, can you fix my mask? The elastic is too short. And shortening elastic is easier than lengthening it. So I prefer to create the situation where the elastic needs to be shortened. For these filter pocket pleated masks, I tie a little knot in the end, because what that will let me do is I can sew on the elastic, and then the knot sort of creates a little bit of something that needs an extra tug in order for it to come out, because I don't really want the elastic coming out. This creates problems on the spot. We don't want to do that. So I do that with both sides. Now, the placement of your hole, your opening, for best access to insert your filter is about the midpoint. That way you can go a little bit this way and a little bit this way. Some filter pocket masks, you leave the opening at the top or bottom, and I just prefer not to do that. You can do whatever you like. Now with the right sides of the fabric together, which you can't really see here, but you can by the way that the opening is, you pin the elastic so that the elastic is on the inside of the mask. When you do this, do it on both sides. One side, let me do it on the other side. Do a running stitch, just like in and out, like we did the top and bottom. But of course we want to make sure we secure the elastic, right? So we're going to go through the elastic, and I'm going to stitch it in place a few times. So I'll go through it like 2 or 3 times. And I'll be honest, I think that should be good to hold it in place. Now I can take out this pin. And I just do a running stitch along this side. It's a little stiff because the thread is a little thick, but that's okay, it's coming. There we go. Now we this again on the other side. We make sure to go through the elastic a few times. That will make sure that it's nice and secure and it won't come out. Okay, so that's the first side. Now as it turns out, I'm kind of out of thread, so I'm going to rethread and then I'm going to come back to you and do the next side. So this is what we got, our square. It's sewn with such a delightful yellow. And we open this up like this. And we can actually use the elastic and tug on it a little to get the edges all out. So you can see there's a little bit of like it, you can probably poke a chopstick through there or something, but once we iron it, it should be good. and we're going to put pleats. So between those two things, it should be fine. Right? So here we go. Now, actually, we're going to put 3 pleats in this one. So basically, I'm going to fold it 3 times, and then I will pin it once for each pleat. There are a few things you have to know. You obviously are going to try to match up the sides so that they're even. Each pleat is about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and the pleats should not overlap. So if you get those things right, then you're solid. And then you just make sure that they match up on both sides. So I'm going to take a little time, turn off the camera, and work on my pleats, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I got. Okay? So here we have them, 3 pleats each, and the width of this is, looks wide, but it's 9 inches, so it's a little bit wide. It's actually 8 3/4. Yeah, well, too bad. And so it's for a bigger face, like a large man. And now I'm going to sew up the sides so that the pleats can stay in place. And I'm going to do that the same way, but I'm going to add some extra stitches when I get to my pleats, because again, there's going to be a lot of tension on these points. So I'm just going to make sure that that's okay. So all right, here we are. Snap, crackle, pop. At the last pleat to be stitched. I've been using my thimble. For those of you who do not know what a thimble is, it is a metal piece that goes on top of your finger, and I'm not sure which finger it goes on to. I don't know if there's a tradition. Nobody ever taught me to use a thimble. I don't know if there's a proper way to do it. I'm sure there is. But you use it basically to push the needle through. And since I can't find my bird beak pliers to do the pulling, I'm going at it from the other side. And I'm hoping later on today I can go look for the owl. I hear there's an owl around the village outside, and I'm totally gonna go look for it, because some people have been showing me some really nice pictures of that old owl. Okay. Now I'm going to put this in the kiosk to see if anyone will buy it. And I think someone will. And if I tell them that I used it for a class and I made it in a demo, I am pretty sure somebody will buy it. You know, that's what happens when you have sort of a unique spin on a single piece that you create. And you might think like, oh my gosh, you just sewed a mask. You didn't create a piece. But everything you do has a creative value to it, right? And there will be no second mask like this one, because every one that I hand sew will be different, right? There we go. So that's it. It's a little bit bigger than one might want. I'm going to work on the sizing for the next one, but you can insert a filter and it'll stand up to a lot. And it's a nice mask. It feels good in double. In single, it's not as, doesn't feel as thick, but this has a nice feel to it. There we go. Hope you enjoyed the show.